There's an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. There's an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. There's an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
Good morning, Bitcoin. Today is Monday, June 29th, 2020. My name is Thomas Hunt, and this is the World Crypto Network. The price of Bitcoin is down 0.65% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 9,130, a high of 9,193, and a low of 9,018. That's $1 for 10,949 Satoshis. Volume is a little low for a Monday, with 3,465 Bitcoins changing hands. The market continues to lean long, with 81% heading that direction. Bitcoin dominance is at 65%. And now, a reading from the Principia Discordia by Malcalypse the Younger. A sermon on ethics and love. One day, Mal II asked the messenger spirit, Saint Gulick, to approach the goddess and request her presence for some desperate advice. Shortly afterwards, the radio came on by itself, and an ethereal female voice said, "Yes? O Eris, blessed mother of man, queen of chaos, daughter of discord, concubine of confusion, O exquisite lady, I beseech you to lift a heavy burden from my heart." "What bothers you, Mal? You don't sound well." "I am filled with fear and tormented by terrible visions of pain. Everywhere people are hurting one another. The planet is rampant with injustices. Whole society plunders groups of their own people. Mothers imprison sons. Children perish while brothers war. Oh, woe!" "What is the matter with that, if that is what you want to do?" "But nobody wants it. Everybody hates it." "Oh well, then stop." At which moment she turned herself into an aspirin commercial and left the Polyfather stranded alone with his species. From Principia Discordia, Malcalypse the Younger. And now, the Bitcoin news. It's the price, and the price. Crypto Research Report predicts $397,000 Bitcoin price by 2030. Research behind the June 2020 report from the Crypto Research used Bitcoin's target addressable market to predict a rise to $397,000 a coin. I'd buy that for $1. Bitcoin miners done selling? 5 things to know about the Bitcoin price this week. A mixed bag of metrics and influences is testing Bitcoin's withdrawal resolve this week, with its trajectory undecided as $9,000 wavers. Stock optimism returns with 9,000. Further weaknesses in the S&P 500 with Bitcoin has been 95% correlated in recent months could be particularly damaging in the short term. Nevertheless, some traders were optimistic. Cointelegraph Markets analyst Michael Van de Poppe noted that even at recent lows around 8,900, Bitcoin was still up 140% since March. Maybe it's time to take some profits. Bitcoin investment is still far ahead of stocks for the second quarter, with gains in excess of 40%. The difficulty may adjust downward again. Last week's bearish momentum appeared to take its toll on Bitcoin network fundamentals. The difficulty, set for an adjustment in around 30 hours, has flipped negative. Should the trend continue, a downward shift would contrast starkly with the 15% rise seen during the last adjustment 2 weeks ago. Small Bitcoin futures gap opens. Ooh, you could get closed there. One potential price point, albeit not far from the current price, is a gap left in the CME Group's Bitcoin futures market over the weekend. As Cointelegraph often notes, if futures begin Monday trading on a different place to where they ended on the previous Friday, Bitcoin seems to rise or fall to fill the hole. This week, the gap lies around $91.80 and $92.50, $100 higher than press time levels. On Friday, a giant expiry in Bitcoin options open interest of nearly $1 billion failed to have any significant impact on the price, contrary to expectations. Nonetheless, derivatives are seen as a major market factor for Bitcoin, with volume and open interest regularly hitting new highs across operators. Fear trumps greed among Bitcoin investors. On the part of the everyday trader, the mood appears little changed from last week. According to the Crypto Fear and Greed Index, a dedicated measuring tool for trading sentiment, fear still abounds. The tool uses multiple factors to compile an index from 1 to 100, with a higher score as a sign that traders are irrationally optimistic and a correction is due. The index's current score is 41, down 9 points versus last week's highs from June 24th. That brief spike came as prices rose, following rumors that PayPal was preparing to accept cryptocurrency. Data showing exchange balances shows that less is now in exchange wallets than at any time in the last 13 months, a sign a lack of interest in selling among consumers. Miners ease up on Bitcoin selling. Miner sentiment will continue to be under the spotlight in the short term after June saw periods of heavy sell-offs. As Cointelegraph reported, that was likely driven by 2 Chinese pools, with the destination of 7,000 Bitcoin potentially sent to over-the-counter sell trades. June 26, meanwhile, saw a spike in the outflows from smaller pools. Miners have felt pressure since May's halving, which cut their income from block rewards by 50% overnight. Inflation protection, Bitcoin, gold, and silver. Maybe a few people think that after a couple of months we'll be heading quickly back to normality and old-school economic progress. I hope they're right, but I think we have to park that possibility until something magical starts to happen. For now, as every day goes by, the economic hole created by the coronavirus is being dug deeper.
There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
Maybe they're printing so much money it launches inflation. They say no, but then again, they've been wrong before. Bitcoin is not dead. Get yours at your local post office. Parentheses, if you live in Australia. Great clickbait headline, Forbes. On June 24th, Australia Post announced that Bitcoin will be available for purchase at all postal service outlets. In a partnership with bitcoin.com.au, customers will be able to purchase Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies at 3,500 locations using the Post Bill Pay feature. Both cash and credit card payments will be accepted. Bitcoin in Australia. Bitcoin's correlation to equities returns after fading in May. Bitcoin's relationship to the S&P has returned to March levels of correlation after a period of essential zero correlation during May. Seems obvious? Yes. Bitcoin price must flip this level into support to avoid a drop to 7.4 thousand. Bitcoin price continues to consolidate near a key support, but a close above 9,400 is needed to avoid a sharper correction. Looking at the price of Bitcoin, it's currently 9,131, far below the 9,400 level that they say is needed to stay at this level. Check out the World Crypto Network store at worldcryptonetwork.store. I can now confirm that we have sold at least one of every t-shirt. Yay! But no one but me has bought the mugs yet. So I'll let you know when my mugs arrive. I'm going to go out and check the mail today despite the heat and the smoke. There was a fire nearby, and the air is very smoky outside. Bad day to run, bad day to go outside. Oh, yeah, everything coming together. But check out the World Crypto Network store, where you can buy t-shirts and mugs to help support the World Crypto Network and so that you look cool. Get your Bitcoin shirts at worldcryptonetwork.store. Check out the World Crypto Network audio podcast. I just updated it this morning. The weekend shows should be there. They're rolling out to Apple now. It's on Apple iTunes, Spreaker, Spotify, Overwatch, wherever you get podcasts. We're probably there. Check it out. The World Crypto Network audio podcast. And now, more news. But don't worry, there's lots of breaks and good stuff going on. For a minute there, I thought I almost didn't tweet anything at all yesterday, but then I did. There's going to be a review and a discussion of the movie Inherent Vice. If you haven't seen it yet, it stars Joaquin Phoenix, and it's directed by P.T. Anderson. That should be enough right there. You don't even really need any more. The fact that it's written by Thomas Pynchon based on the novel, that's awesome too. But P.T. Anderson, the guy who directed Boogie Nights, There Will Be Blood, so many other great movies, The Master. He just did a new one. But anyway, P.T. Anderson, Inherent Vice. We'll be checking it out here. I'll try not to do any spoilers, but you know how it is. I'm going to have to discuss the plot. But let's get going. Let's get through the news. Trump said, "I didn't hear the guy screaming white power in the video. It was loud in my office. Everyone was screaming white power. I couldn't tell that the guy in the video was also screaming that." That's funny. That new social media app called Parler, spelled wrong, apparently becoming very popular with conservatives, but they want your social security number. Sounds like a bad idea. It's only a matter of time before Parler is hacked and these social security numbers go public. Don't give anyone your social security number. If you have to, sorry to support the banks, but give it to a trusted person like a bank who's using a secure channel. Don't give it to a brand new startup company that just wants it because, they want it. Parler also warns users not to post rumors. How can you tell what's a rumor? And advises against posting content that is sexual in nature because porn is banned. What kind of a free speech place is this where porn is banned? They also say that they've banned spam, which they define as repetitive messages. Sounds like campaigning to me. Scott Dworkin writes, "If you're a Republican and you aren't calling on Trump to resign, you're in on it." Joe Biden says, "Today the president showed a video of people shouting white power and said they were great, just like he did after Charlottesville. We're in a battle for the soul of the nation, and the president has picked a side. But make no mistake, it's a battle we will win." Adam Back, continuing to address the Satoshi issue, now declares it settled. Adam says, "All credible candidates have said emphatically that they are not Satoshi. Odd pretenders are non-credible. We'll likely never know. Effectively, there is no Satoshi. We have to think for ourselves. This is good. Leaving was one of the wisest things he did." And we've talked about it here on the show for years now that Satoshi, much like Prometheus, brought fire to the gods. Excuse me there. Prometheus brought fire to the gods. He came down from Zeus and the mountain, and he gave man fire. For this, of course, Prometheus was chained to a rock where a bird would pick out his liver every day. Then the liver would grow back, and then the bird would pick it out again until he was later rescued by Hercules. Prometheus, his name means afterthought. Prometheus didn't realize that he was going to get chained to a rock for eternity. That was an afterthought. Prometheus's brother Epimetheus warned him not to do this, not to bring fire to man. But Epimetheus, his name means forethought. So in this way, Satoshi no doubt learned from this historical mythological story and gave fire to man, but didn't stick around for them to tie him to a rock and have a bird eat out his liver for eternity. Satoshi learned from that. He took the lessons of history and he understood what he was doing and that it would be popular and unpopular, depending on who you are and what side you are in the whole money debate. And Prometheus gave fire to man and, so far, has escaped punishment, which is very impressive. And even more impressive than being super rich and wasting all that money. That's not very exciting, but leaving all that money there, walking away from it, leaving all the fame, all the fortune, leaving all that there to make the project stronger, to make the project uncopyable. Vitalik tried to copy it. Everyone knows who he is. Charlie Lee from Litecoin tried to copy it. Everyone knows who he is. No project is quite like Satoshi and Bitcoin. Robert Reich says, reminder, if Trump successfully repeals the Affordable Care Act, the wealthiest 0.1% of Americans will get a $198,000 tax cut. Once again, Trump and his enablers have placed cutting taxes for the wealthy and corporations ahead of the health of the American people. As Bill Hicks said so famously so long ago, the wonderful comedian, it wasn't Bill, it was George Carlin. And George Carlin said, there's a ruling class and you ain't in it. You ain't in it. Unless you're getting this tax cut. And then I say, congratulations. Otherwise, you just helped kick all your fellow friends and man and women and everybody off of health care. Scott Dworkin says, Trump covered up the fact that Russia is trying to murder our troops. What the hell is he still doing in the White House? Oh, I forgot for a second that the GOP is in on it. We're watching the end of a political party here. People will write books about it afterwards. They'll say, how did this happen? Why did this happen? They totally got wiped out. They had the right ideas with Romney and others saying, we need to adapt. We need to adopt policies that are more acceptable to Hispanics and other minorities as they become majorities. Instead, they went the other way with the racist Trump and the destruction of the GOP. This is a very sad story. This is Seth Smith. He was 19 years old, and he went to UC Berkeley. He's apparently very smart, very kind. He was a double major, economics and history. He was ahead of his schedule for his age. He was several years ahead. He was very popular. He was the pillar of his community. And he died from a gunshot wound on the street in Berkeley. Just a continued reminder of random and horrible gun violence, robbing us of some of the best potential that we had. Seth Smith, 19 years old, UC Berkeley student. Ken Burns, documentarian, says that baseball is a mirror of our country. Of course, here he's talking about Jackie Robinson and the way that baseball was able to integrate black players into baseball and the success they had. I'm not sure if he's saying it, but I would say more recently that the cheating scandals reflect our country. The fact that the Astros and now the Red Sox the Astros certainly used computers and video cameras and other technologies to steal signs to influence the game so that they could win the World Series, which they did. So apparently in our community now, if you win the World Series, it's okay to cheat. Kind of talks about a moral decline of America something that Mr. Rogers wouldn't like. Oh, we've got bad news. They're remaking The Princess Bride on Quibi. Yes, that's right. That means they're going to cut it up into parts. And instead of watching a whole movie, you can watch it in like 10-minute segments. It's a terrible idea. Cast sounds terrible already. All the really good cast in this are gone or not interested. How can you make this movie without Andre the Giant? It's garbage. It's just going to be a copy. But I'm going to do my part by not watching it, not linking to the article, and not mentioning it again. The original Princess Bride is an absolute classic, and you should watch it immediately. I also read the book and the book about the movie. You should check those out too if you want more to read. Historians will not struggle to explain why widespread public recognition of racism happened to coincide with the Trump presidency, or why 250,000 Americans died under his watch. Yes, it'll be very obvious in hindsight that the president who came down the escalator and told us that Mexicans were rapists and thieves turned out to be a racist. It's shocking. It really is. In case you missed it, Trump retweeted a video shot in Central Florida that shows one of his supporters yelling, "White power," while driving a golf cart and shaking a fist at the president's critics. He later deleted it. While millions of Americans have lost their jobs during this pandemic, America's billionaires have grown their wealth by more than $500 billion. Robert Reich says, "It's never been more clear. Profit sharing needs to make a comeback." Remember profit sharing? In the 1980s, they used to have profit sharing, but then they became so focused on stocks and stock markets that they decided the best way to increase the value of their stock would be to stop giving any of it to the employees. Simple decision, obviously leading to more inequality in our society, more rich CEOs, and less and more poor employees. Almost as if it was by design. Looks like the White House has taken down the statement, the video of the white power video, so we might have to go find that somewhere else if you want to see it. But you've seen it. I mean, they're driving around on golf carts. The Trump people have the golf carts. Looks like it's kind of a parade. Other people are yelling things at them, saying, "Where's your hood?" and so forth. And the guy chants back, "White power." And the protester who's filming it, he can't even believe it. He says, "Did you hear that? They said white power. What was that?" They're chanting it at white people that disagree with him. So it's a very, very strange video. Again, he shared it. He left it up there for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, which is a great way to send a signal to the white power people that, you know, there's good people on both sides, right? You know, there's good racists, there's good Nazis, and good people on both sides, right? And that's what you do when you leave that message up. If it had been a true whoopsie, like he didn't know it said white power, you delete it 5 minutes later. 5 minutes later, you get the first round of 100 messages. "Mr. President, my God, you're retweeting things that say white power? Take that down. We need to get that down within 30 minutes, within 10 minutes, right?" No. Hours and hours and hours. It's one of those, "I'm really on your side. I just had to take it down because it looks bad. But really, I would be out there in the sheet marching with you." Terrifying message. Can't imagine why the president would want to send that message. The havoc may only have just begun in commercial real estate. Moody's calculates that if tenants in New York gave up even 10% of their space over the next 5 years, it could result in halving of rents sought on vacant properties. We could see a 50% drop in the value of rents. It's not over for the economy, not by a long shot. Texas Medical Center quietly removes ICU data from website after reporting beds were full. Who's in favor of this? Who's in favor of covering up the coronavirus? I know we all want to stab our eyes out. We've got Oedipus envy in the United States, but really, you want us to have less information about what's going on with the virus. That's a great idea. That's going to work out really well. Shocking scenes today from Aurora, Colorado. This man is peacefully playing the violin at the protest. Police in riot gear begin spraying the protesters with pepper spray and using batons to push them back. This is at a peaceful gathering in the park where they're protesting the murder of Elijah McClain by the police over a year ago. Let's watch as Colorado police continue to attack the people they're paid to protect. The police are the monsters wearing all black with the gas masks and the helmets. They don't look friendly, and they don't seem to be. And that's just the way it is. Some things will never change. Bruce Hornby and the Range. That's just the way it is. Here's an earlier scene where it was peaceful, almost like a free concert. Look, I think they're doing social distancing, and everyone in this shot, maybe not the bassist, is wearing masks. Let's see what the police do to a peaceful protest in Aurora, Colorado. And again, who are the monsters here? The protesters listening to some violin music, speaking out for the death of Elijah McClain? Or these people, dressed in all black, moving in like a military unit, getting ready to attack these protesters with batons and tear gas, peacefully in the park, in America. Very sad. Obviously, foreboding. Check out the new parallel lines on the coronavirus chart. You can see almost straight diagonally up the previous chart. And if we look at the new section, the new section seems to be growing out of control, as it was in the previous section before the lockdowns, before anyone took this seriously. It's almost as if somewhere right in here, we decided to reopen all the businesses, all the bars, all the places where you're going to spread coronavirus by being indoors, and we reopened without masks. We said, hey, Asian countries are having a lot of success fighting this with masks. You know, it's a little piece of paper or cloth that you put over your mouth to keep your own germs to yourself so you don't get other people sick. It's a revolutionary new idea out of Asia. We could try that here. But we said, no. Just go out there. Don't wear a mask. Do all your normal things. Go shopping. Get a haircut. Spread this virus as much as you can. And look at the success. Diagonally straight up. Just whew, like a shot. The health secretary made the rounds of the Sunday talk shows, calling for the states to do more to stop COVID-19 with zero new commitments from the federal level. Where is the Trump administration? Azar says the window is closing for us to get this under control. And remember when we had a national government? Remember when we were the United States? It was kind of what the Civil War was fought about, really, if you want to know. States' rights versus union. And again, states' rights to have slaves. Don't forget that part. Because, the minute you give them the rights, they start, controlling other people and making them slaves. But, we fought that so we could have a national government. So if we had a big problem like a pandemic or World War II, we could all work together to win that fight. I remember during World War II when they said, Arizona, you need to be producing more guns and more troops. And Missouri, you're falling behind. We're going to let the Germans take you. And Florida, you really need to be sending us more gear and more goods. And it's a state issue here. You know? No, I don't remember that. I remember us fighting as a group in World War II. I remember us fighting as a group in World War One. Even Vietnam fought as a group. The Gulf War, the Second Gulf War, fought as a group. The pandemic. Let the states handle it. 10th Amendment, baby. We're not going to protect you from a virus. Not like we have a Center for Disease Control. A whole health department. Why even bother doing that? Balaji, again, writing an interesting tweet. Balaji says, the actual org chart is the map of who listens to whom. Twitter has changed the org chart of the world. Slack has changed the org chart of each company. Who listens to whom? That matters more than whatever governance structure is written down on paper. Interesting stuff from Balaji. You got to think about that one a little more. I don't know that he's completely right, but I do think that he said something thoughtful. Twitter has changed the org chart of the world. Slack has changed the org chart of each company. Interesting. A very strange business in Las Vegas saying that there are no masks allowed in the business. So they will force you to take off the mask if you enter their business with a mask. So these people are dedicated to spreading the virus. Hashtag Team Virus. They want to kill more humans. And I predict their business will go out of business. That's right. Out of business. That's the kind of business that they'll soon be in. Lawyers on Twitter have already offered to sue this store pro bono, just as soon as they find out where it is. As Mac Verstandig says, if someone can identify the business, and it really is in Las Vegas, I'll be happy to seek an injunction pro bono. Great stuff. And as if 2020 didn't have enough, locusts are putting 5 million people at risk of starvation, and that's without COVID-19. We can see here in Somalia, Kenya, Ethiopia, Djibouti, Yemen, Eritrea, Oman. Let's see what's this up here. Iran, India, everywhere. Tons of locusts spreading in, looks like near the Middle East, near Saudi Arabia. As Robert Rhodes says, clearly the one thing that 2020 still needed was the most serious desert locust outbreak in 70 years. It's a 70-year locust outbreak. Crazy stuff. A sad story in Nevada. Sadly, today marks the 500th loss of life in Nevada due to COVID-19. These Nevadans were our mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, and friends. And Kathy and I mourn this unimaginable loss, says Governor Kislyak. We owe it to their memories to do all we can to help slow the spread. And maybe you should have required masks. I don't forget things. I remember when Nevada reopened, and Governor Kislyak said, I'm not going to require masks because I'm afraid of a rebellion of idiots, a confederacy of dunces, as they say. Yes, if we had required masks, we could have saved the casinos. We could have saved the reputation of Las Vegas as a tourist capital and a place you'd actually want to go, instead of turning into a super spreader event for the coronavirus. It was an easy and simple mistake to make. I don't think it was made out of malice. But yes, Governor Kislyak should have required masks in Nevada from the beginning. Clark County, that's where Las Vegas is reporting 13,910 cases this morning, 736 more than yesterday. This is the second biggest single-day increase in cases after yesterday's 971 case increase. The statewide total is 17,142, with a 7-day average of 557 new cases a day in Clark County, Nevada. Keep in mind, whenever they try to force you to use an app, you see it a lot now in the web browser, especially on the iPhone, something like CBS News or Reddit or any of these other pages. They always say, open it in the app, and they're desperate for it. As Swift on Security says, apps are making the ad blocker workaround the industry found. Apps are the ad blocking workaround the industry found after browsers started making it harder. And the other thing about these messages is they never go away. There's no way to save the message that I'd always like to read it in Safari instead of opening the Reddit app. That's because they don't want to save a cookie. That's because they want you to be asked every time. It's basically asking you, do you want ads or do you want to just read it in your web browser? Just read it in your web browser. More than 100 choir singers performed without masks at a Texas event for Vice President Pence. Nearly 2,200 people attended the Celebrate Freedom, Spread the Virus rally. Half of them didn't wear masks. Do we ever learn? I'm pretty sure the CDC warned about choir outbreaks. We saw yesterday with the virus samples in the Petri dishes that singing is about the same as talking. It definitely spreads the virus if you're not wearing a mask, and these people didn't. They said in the video that after they finished singing, they all put on the mask, which is like closing the barn door after the horse is gone, right? They're gone. Aaron Rubar says, people sometimes call Trumpism a death cult, but this is uncomfortably on the nose. As a reminder, 87% of people at one choir practice were infected by a single person. COVID-19 spreads easily. Avoid groups. Stay at least 6 feet apart and wear face coverings. You can see here graphically that out of the 87% of people at the choir practice developed COVID-19, 32 confirmed and 20 probable cases from a single choir practice in Washington. Here's another video. These are becoming more and more popular these days. It's another Karen. She's upset. They're making her wear a mask to shop for groceries. So instead, she's going to destroy the property of the grocery store in protest. I'm sure you libertarians like this. Seeing private property destroyed really makes you wonder who to side with here.
Call the police.
Well, and she really doesn't give a fuck, and that's what this is about, is that if you don't care about other people and you're not going to wear the mask, why should we have you in our society? Look at all the work that it did for people to put those products on the shelf. They all worked together. They all got paid. They all worked together. She comes in, not a part of it, won't wear a mask, won't respect their rules of their business, won't respect the rules of the state, probably. And now she can't get food. That's a problem. California has ordered 7 counties, including Los Angeles, to immediately close any bars and night spots that are open, citing coronavirus concerns. Better late than never, right? Better late than never. This new advertisement by the Lincoln Project got 8 million views in 9 hours. Let's watch it one more time, checking out this new advertisement from the Lincoln Project. Former Republicans.
In the last year, flag-draped coffins have returned from Afghanistan. Now we know Vladimir Putin pays a bounty for the murder of American soldiers. Donald Trump knows too, and does nothing. Putin pays the Taliban cash to slaughter our men and women in uniform. And Trump is silent, weak, controlled. Instead of condemnation, he insists Russia be treated as our equal. Instead of retaliation, he invites Putin to America. When Trump tells you he stands by the troops, he's right. Just not our troops.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
That's a great ad. I don't know that I've seen a political ad better than that. To really go for an ad that's better than that, I think you have to go for Saturday Night Live. It was a parody, and it was back George Herbert Walker Bush the first, and it was just a fantastic parody. They were running against Michael Dukakis, and a big issue at the time was Willie Horton, who was a murderer who was let out of jail under Governor Dukakis, and later went on to rape a woman or murder a woman, something like that, Willie Horton. And so Bush used it to really attack Dukakis and show him as a weak person, weak on law and order, weak on criminals, that he wasn't going to defect you. So in this Saturday Night Live bit, and again, I'd play it, but I know NBC will get really mad. So it's better for me to describe it to you, if that's all right. In this Saturday Night Live bit, Bush comes on, and he's so excited because he's won. And it's like after the election. And he's like, we had some extra money, and we decided to use it for one more great negative ad. We wouldn't want it to fall back to the election or fall to the people, so we used it for one more negative ad. And it recapped a lot of the stuff, and it showed Dukakis riding around in the tank and all that kind of thing. And at the very end, the tagline was so good. It brings up picture of, it might have been a picture of Dukakis, might have been Bush, but it brings up, and the tagline's so good. It's like, George Bush, he beat a bad man. So good. Classic Saturday Night Live from 1989, 88, if you want to go check it out. But better to describe it. Oh, this is a very sad story. I don't know if it's true or not. She says that her uncle, who is 74 years old, has pre-existing conditions and only left his home while he was masked. He has hand sanitizer, and he only went to the grocery store. An unmasked moron. He asked them to stand further away from him. They got right in his face and yelled at him, and he now has the coronavirus. So we don't know if it was just the unmasked moron or he got it somewhere else, but truly horrible to see how breathing on people really is assault in this world of the coronavirus. And yes, the laws haven't adapted to that, but they will. And these people who, when told to stand away from someone, why not just stand away from them? For all you know, they have some horrible disease that you're going to get by standing near them. Plus, in general, just respect people, right? I'm sorry, I didn't know I was in your space. Let me stand further away, right? It could have been that. Instead, this person got mad, yelled in an old man's face, and now he's fighting the coronavirus. Sad story. Let's see. Based upon the police marching into the violin vigil for Elijah McClain, David M. Perry writes, "You cannot reform this police department. You can only abolish it. No human who's willing to march, nightstick in hand, to break up a violin vigil for the disabled black child they murdered is someone who can be trusted with the power to police others." And here we see the police. They're the ones dressed all in black with the helmets and the sticks, moving into this peaceful rally where they were enjoying some music and showing their support for against the murder of Elijah McClain. Have to abolish. Paul Vigna writes, "Why exactly is wearing a mask still controversial in the United States?" I don't know. It's not controversial anywhere else. And it's a huge embarrassment and a setback to our goal of killing this virus so we can get back to normal. Right? Get on the team. Team human. The Earn It Act will let Attorney General William Barr ban strong encryption. We need to stop it, and there's a Senate vote next week. The EFF is warning you about a new bill, the Graham-Blumenthal Earn It Act, a bill that will allow Barr to ban strong encryption or to require a back door, which, as we know, is always used by criminals and other people. So a major vote coming up. This is one that they could let through. It is possible that Senator Mitch McConnell, the worst person in the world, who's blocking more than 400 bills in the Senate and also stole the Supreme Court nomination from President Obama, this sounds like a law he'd pass. So watch out. They're going to try to ban encryption. Hey, here's some positive news. I beat a video game yesterday. Not bragging or anything, just takes time. But I beat Assassin's Creed Black Flag. It was pretty fun. It's the pirate one. You get to be a pirate out on the seas and take over other ships and drive your ship around. It was pretty fun. The credits are pretty cool too. The story continued. Well, it's kind of a spoiler, but you know, this girl here who looks very young, like she might be his daughter, she talked to him the whole time during the credits for like 3 or 4 minutes. They like told this little story back and forth, and the video game continued in the credits. So it was really cool. It was also kind of amazing to see how many people worked on this game. You can't tell from this 13-second video, but the credits went on for like 5 or 10 minutes after this. Like I put on an album, and the credits were still rolling, and the album ended. It was only an EP, but still. So yes, so many people work on video games, especially a game like this that was converted over from the PS4 to the Switch. So it was like 2 groups of programmers and 2 groups of everything. So pretty cool stuff. Excellent game. Assassin's Creed Black Flag. It's a little old. I got it in a 2-pack on the Switch for like $22 with another game called Assassin's Creed Rogue, which I guess I'll be playing next. It was fun. I don't mind it. And now we're getting into Inherent Vice. So this is going to mix it up for you. If you haven't seen the movie Inherent Vice, there's going to be some light spoilers, probably. But check it out. It's a great film. P.T. Anderson and Joaquin Phoenix. This is to help distract you from the news. Joaquin Phoenix plays kind of a Lebowski-esque private detective in the 80s, kind of the 70s. And, you know, he smokes, he's kind of lazy, he's a hippie, very Lebowski-esque, but still so many things happen, driving him around point to point, so many strange characters. Of course, it's in Los Angeles. Just a great film. Anderson drew inspiration from Kiss Me Deadly, The Big Sleep, Raymond Chandler's The Long Goodbye, and Cheech and Chong's Up in Smoke. These are good movies. There's a cool line in the movie. The guy said, he was talking to him, he said something like, "Tomorrow is another day," which would be today, right? And then at this point, he was talking to, what's her name? Legally Blonde. I was talking to her online, and he says, "Well, you're a dirty little hippie. What would a nice girl like me want to do with you?" He doesn't have much of a response to it. Shout out to Nagato Dharma. He says he's watched it 10 times. He also read the book. Says Pynchon is great. I've heard good things about Pynchon, but I haven't cracked him yet. I think I have a sample of Gravity's Rainbow on the Twitter, but I haven't committed to buying the book yet. I suggested to him The Long Goodbye. It's another great movie. He checked it out later that night, and he enjoyed it. So check out Long Goodbye. He asked for some more movie recommendations, so I told him go see Miller's Crossing. It's a great Coen Brothers movie about a war between Irish and Italian gangsters, ethics, character, and love. And of course, the classics, because we're talking film noir, so you got to put them up. Big Sleep, Maltese Falcon, and Double Indemnity. And as I've been telling you guys, I'm also really into The Hunt. Came out in 2020. It's hard to believe there was even a movie this year, especially a good one. I've watched it like 5 times. I think it's a perfect film. There's a little bit more Inherent Vice. It's so good. It's about the past, but still has so many echoes of our times. We're going to risk everything here, but we're going to play this for fair use, for commentary, and for news. So let's check out just 30 seconds, just a little bit of Inherent Vice. Gee, he thought, I don't know. It's great narration. What a story. And here's another short clip from the film Inherent Vice, which I hope you guys will rent or see, or send them $5 or whatever. I bought the Blu-ray for what it's worth at the 99-cent store, but still.
Principal, he tried.
Great narration. Also great to see what's happening in the action of the film. Here, Joaquin Phoenix, obviously a hippie-type character, so he's shown no respect. The officers change the direction they're walking to walk into him so that he can give him a shoulder and push him down. This reminds me exactly of what we saw in the street a couple days ago, where the officer was walking in front of the protester, then stepped in front of the protester and stopped, claiming that he was touched. And then the officers used it as an excuse to knock the protesters down. It's interesting, in a later scene in the movie, Joaquin Phoenix just gets on the ground with his hands over his head when he walks by the police. Telling. And, this is an old movie. Well, it's a 2014 movie, and it's about the 80s. So it's interesting to see the echoes of history and filmmaking and art come right through to our times. All these strange cop histories, cop politics, cop dynasties, cop heroes, and evil doers. Great film. Inherent Vice. The Mississippi state legislature voted on Sunday to replace its state flag, the last in the nation to display the Confederate battle emblem. I can't believe it took this long. It's always been shocking. Never been to Mississippi, never really wanted to go there. But they have now replaced the flag. So good on you, Mississippi, although 14 legislators voted against changing the flag. Shocking. I don't know what they're thinking. A couple more quotes from the movie. Have them check for copper, not the kind that ruins a crime scene, but the metal. Have them check for copper. That's funny. As long as American life was something to be escaped from, the cartel was guaranteed a steady stream of new customers. That's true even today. And a great shot here of Eric Roberts in the film, aged quite a lot these days. He says, I spent my whole life charging people for a place to live when it should have been free the whole time. And this character talks about how he took a lot of drugs and suddenly began having hippie ideas. He'd been a land developer and he'd made lots and lots of money charging people for land and houses. But these hippie ideas overtake him, and he wants to give away all his money, set up a place in the desert where anyone can live for free, and make up for all he's done. It kind of reminded me of another real estate developer who charged people to live. Interesting stuff. Thoughtful ideas from the movie Inherent Vice. You can check it out. Mixmaster Hash says, the so-called Bitcoin OGs who love to moan about maximalism did nothing except make shitcoins and pump and dump casinos, while the real OGs actually scaled Bitcoin and built Bitcoin services, just like Satoshi and Hal planned. It was a crazy news day yesterday for a Sunday, so much so that I had to take a picture here of my Google News view, just because I couldn't believe the amount of articles and news stories that were just right here in this feed. So just to go over this, I'm sure you guys watched the news yesterday. As we just said, Mississippi lawmakers vote to retire the state flag rooted in the Confederacy. Meanwhile, Trump shares a video where his supporters yell white power. Shocking. Anti-Trump Republican group's new ad slams the president over the coronavirus deaths hitting the greatest generation. I think we got that coming up. We're going to play that for you. And Trump denies knowing Russia offered the Taliban bounties for U.S. soldiers. And at the bottom of the page, this is the least important news. More than 500,000 people worldwide have now died from the coronavirus. Can you imagine a day where 500,000 dead would not be the number one story? Well, that was yesterday. That news was crazy. All of this together on one day. Also, it was a Sunday. Sunday is not a big news day. So crazy stuff happening every day all over the place. Adam Best says, let me get this straight. Conservatives think that wearing a mask at Olive Garden to keep people from getting sick is too big of a sacrifice. but kids wearing bulletproof backpacks to school so we don't have to change our batshit crazy gun laws is totally fine. That does seem odd. Let's see. Oh, Jill Weinbank says, another city not to visit. Why does he have that weapon? Why does he need it for protesters walking past his house? Is this for real? And Twitter says it includes sensitive content. So hold on to your hats. We're going through the Twitter warning. Oh, twice again. Could have saved that in there. Here is what's being called by everyone on the internet. They've been calling these people Ken and Karen. I think it sounded pretty loud, but let's take a look at this video, and then we'll get into the memes and the fun and everything that happened next. Well, first of all, I want to talk about what's happening in the foreground here. This is pretty nice. Two black protesters tell the white protester to keep moving. let's not get in trouble here. Like, I know maybe you want to go talk to those people, but no. Let's just keep moving. Very nice of them there to protect their fellow protester. It's very nice. But yes, you can see they both have the weapons. He's got an AR-15. She's got a handgun. Both of them have their fingers on the trigger. You can't quite see from this video, but you can see from other shots. They have fingers on the trigger. As you know, you put the finger on the trigger when it's time to kill. Proper gun ownership, maintenance, usage. You don't put your finger on the trigger till it's time to kill. He's actually pointing that gun at his wife right now. So the internet did not like this. This man is an attorney. He's likely going to be disbarred. He's in real trouble. And wait till you see the inside of that house. You got to wonder what he's thinking here. Obviously, you want to protect your property, but why would you go outside of your property? You're not protecting your property anymore. You just went outside of it. I'm gonna read it to you. But in Missouri, property does not include the grounds, the street, the entire gated community. You don't have the right to protect that. And how logistically do you want to protect this? Is he going to murder everyone on this street with that machine gun? Like, obviously, the weapon is capable. Like, it fires a lot of bullets, even if it's not fully automatic. I mean, it's still like a great weapon. It carries a huge clip. He's ready for some serious killing right there in his bare feet. But I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to kill all those people? People are going to come back. And especially now that you've gone outside your house and marked your house as a target, people are going to egg this house for years. Spray paint, eggs, worse. Patton, of course. Fixed fortifications are a monument to the stupidity of man. This house is heavy cement. It's fixed. It doesn't have wheels. Doesn't move. Everybody knows where this house is now. And you got to sleep sometime, right? Can you afford 24/7 guards on your house? Because that's what you just hired by going outside. Just to recap, if he stays inside with his gun waiting for them to come through the windows or come through the door, you can shoot anybody that comes through the windows or the doors, right? I'm not arguing that. But what this guy's doing here, he's out of control. And again, the internet is going to take care of this guy. You don't have to worry. Scott Dworkin writes, breaking news, at least one U.S. troop death was the result of the Russian bounties, says the New York Times. Trump is the biggest traitor in American history. Benedict Arnold, John Bolton, Donald Trump. Robert Reich says the coronavirus stimulus package carved out $135 billion in tax breaks for the wealthiest 1% of Americans. That's nearly 4 times as much money as it was included for emergency housing and food relief. It's socialism for the rich and harsh capitalism for everyone else. And this just keeps happening. It happened with trickle-down economics in the 1980s. It happened with Newt Gingrich and all of his tax cuts. And it's happening again with the Trump tax cuts and even more tax breaks in the coronavirus stimulus package. Isn't that great? Shout out to Brewster Kahle, founder of the Internet Archive, personal hero. He recounts here 10 years of trying 7 different approaches to provide affordable housing for nonprofit workers. Results are mixed. But he did try everything. He tried buying a building. He tried setting up a credit union. He tried remote work, all kinds of things, trying to get the prices down for nonprofit workers. Of course, one of the problems, sadly, it's a problem because it is, the Internet Archive is in San Francisco. And as much as I love San Francisco, no one can afford to live there. Hey, if you want to get inspired, check out Beau of the Fifth Column. I've talked about him before. I subscribed a couple of days ago, and I'm really enjoying it. Every couple of days, I watch another one of his little video essays. Check out Beau of the Fifth Column. Great stuff. He's kind of a conservative, but I like him. So maybe you guys would like him even more. As I said, we have a fire here near Las Vegas, 0 to 5,000 acres in 6 hours. They're calling it the Mahogany Fire, and it's grown to 5,000 acres with no containment. Lee Canyon has been evacuated. You could see the smoke as far as Las Vegas on the Strip. You could see it from the airport. You could definitely see it around the whole area here in Las Vegas. And this fire happened very quickly, was totally out of control, and likely it was just, who knows how it was lit. But it really brings up the point that in a few days, the president's going to have his July 4th celebration, and he wants it on Mount Rushmore. The local people, just like they did with the coronavirus super spreader events, have said, hey, we don't want fireworks set off on Mount Rushmore. It's summertime here. Everything's dry, and it could go up just like that. But he doesn't care. We're having fireworks anyway. So we'll see if South Dakota catches on fire next. You were forewarned. George Takei says, the fragility of folks who won't wear a mask is truly breathtaking. I lived for 4 years inside 2 internment camps, and I heard less bitching and whining there than I do today. Shout out to George Takei, who was in the American internment camps because he was Japanese. Stephen Lopez has been charged with murder and wanton endangerment. He shot into a crowd of protesters in Louisville last night and killed photographer 27-year-old Tyler Girth. He shot Girth in the head and injured other protesters after he was asked to leave the site. This is the video that we showed yesterday with the man running away from the shots in Louisville. Of course, the police, who said they had everything under control, they said that they were ready to protect the protesters. They've given up again and are now asking the protesters to leave the park, saying that they can't protect them. Great job, police. The Mahogany Fire continues to spread on Mount Charleston here in Las Vegas. It is currently estimated at 30 acres and is rapidly expanding. Samson Mao writes, Bitcoiners abhor proof of stake because it's no different than the fiat system. The rich get richer, and money is printed without any cost. St. Louis couple points guns at peaceful crowd of protesters calling for the mayor to resign. It didn't have anything to do with them, but they injected themselves, and the internet has taken notice. Alejandro, currently at Poolin, the new Bitcoin mining pool, says that Bitcoin hash rate continues to stay strong, even after the last mining difficulty adjustment being the biggest in over 2 years at plus 14.95%. The Associated Press confirms Trump knew. Intelligence officials told the AP that the president was briefed on the matter earlier this year. Plus, the administration discussed several potential responses, but the White House has yet to authorize any step. Trump knew that Russia paid bounties to murder U.S. troops, and he did nothing since March. Who does he work for again? I get so confused. British security officials have confirmed to Sky News that the reports about the plot are true. Russia offered Taliban-linked fighters bounties to attack British troops as senior Tory MP seeks answers. How do we know about this? They found the money when they captured the Taliban. Yes, that's right. They had an unusual amount of American currency in their possession, leading to more questions, leading to the truth about the bounties. Ice-T, famous rapper, writes, "At this point, wearing a mask in public is more of an IQ test." Agree with that. The AP is confirming Trump knew. Breaking news from China. China has skipped phase 3 trials and approved a COVID vaccine directly for use by its military. The same vaccine being tested in Canada. But China just skipped ahead and approved it for a year for its soldiers without full long-term data. It is possible here that by rushing ahead, once again, China may spread the virus more, infecting their troops with the virus and making them sick. Remember, a vaccine is a weakened version of the disease. Part of it is determining how much of the disease to put in or how little to develop appropriate antibodies without killing the host. Remember, in China, they don't really care about individuals. They have 1 billion people. They figure they could afford to lose some. So they're going to go ahead and use their military as guinea pigs. It's not quite the same as being in the military over here. It's more like signing up to be a guinea pig. More information on COVID-19 continues to develop as scientists and doctors study this new disease. Linda Yui writes, "One theory on COVID-19 is that it damages the autonomic nervous system. For example, digestions, sweating, sleep, heart rate, and blood pressure. The body is still damaged even when the virus is long gone. It's too soon to know whether it will clear up eventually or whether it will continue as a chronic disease." And as I've been saying, we don't know very much about this virus yet. Many people have said that it could cause lasting effects. People that used to be marathon runners with excellent lung shape come out of this virus wheezing and struggling to breathe. So, at your own risk, young people. The Lincoln Project writes, "Donald Trump might not know it, but this is his resignation letter." And you can see the United States beginning to complete the S-curve, going up like crazy. Europe, Canada, Japan, all lower. This is new confirmed cases per million residents. That means it's per capita in the previous 7 days. And the U.S. is just out of control. Kayleigh McEnany thinks that Americans will blame Democrats for Republican efforts to repeal the Affordable Care Act. Yes, that's very logical. The people who gave you health care, you'd be angry with the people who took it away. Yes, no, I don't think so. We'll see how this goes. They're continuing to attempt to take health care away from millions of Americans during a pandemic because they just don't care. They just don't have souls. Charlie Strauss writes, "Shorter conclusion, TikTok should be considered to be malware at this point. If you put the app on your phone or your tablet, you've owned yourself." And here's more photos of these people with the guns outside their house. Look at the way they're using them. She's got the finger in the trigger right there. That's practically pointed at her husband's head. That's incredibly dangerous. Basic gun safety and basic gun security. Again, right here, these guys have a finger and a phone, right? She's got a gun with her finger in the trigger. This is a kill position. She's looking to kill them. They are not even on her lawn. Look at the anger. "Don't step on my lawn," says the barefoot lady. And there he is with his machine gun. Sal the Agorist with another great meme here. You can steal this look. Get your Brooks Brothers Supima Cotton Performance Polo Blush Pink, $89.50. Soho Fit Chinos Oatmeal Color, $128. 1818 Leather Belt Cognac, $98. Colt A4 AR-15, $1,714. Training, $0. Image not found. Yes, he doesn't seem to have any training to use that weapon. Just to be clear, the lawsuit does not contend that Democrats passed an unconstitutional health care law years ago, as McEnany claims. The lawsuit contends that the Trump tax law, unbeknownst to everybody, changed the ACA to make it unconstitutional. That's right. They've been scheming to take away health care from people for years. It's almost like they're inhuman. Some kind of monsters that don't care about their fellow man or woman. Imagine how worried Trump would be about Russians trying to get our soldiers killed if they were black people trying to vote by mail. It does seem strange how one thing, instant action. He writes the bill the next day. Other things, months and months of nothing. The president is pissed at the New York Times for breaking the story, but not at Putin for putting bounties on our military. That should tell you everything you need to know. That is all you need to know, and that is all. What's best in life? To tuck a salmon golf shirt into Dockers, carry an AR-15 like Elmer Fudd, and threaten to murder people to defend my Cheesecake Factory ass house. Yes, that's the best in life. Preet Bharara says, I'm not running for anything, but if I were, I would hire all the people from Project Lincoln immediately. They have been very impressive advertisements. If anyone still thinks that the bounty report is not true, remember that it's been independently confirmed by 3 major newspapers: the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post. Also, it was confirmed by British intelligence, and credible reports say that Trump knew in January. The White House straight up lied to us. Again, for the quadrillionth time, knowing that the truth would come out. Now they'll go into attacking the news, the liberals, the leakers, the moon, stars, and sun. And then maybe Obama and Hillary, because they have nothing left. Again, what a terrible lie to tell. Everyone knows every document the president sees is marked. They know exactly what he's seen. They know exactly what he was briefed. It all goes into the archives. Lying about something that you know there's proof of. Why would you do that? Maybe because there's no other alternative. That's a bad position to be in. I'd worry if I was in that position. On the anniversary of the Stonewall riots, riots for lesbian and gay rights, the New York Police Department is attacking LGBTQ people who are marching for Pride. Let that sink in. Look at the aggressive way at this dancing man protecting the street. I must protect the street, he says, running around dancing with his gloves and his little baton. I must protect the street. This street is important. You people, your rights, your protest, not important. My piece of asphalt, important.
People! Wow. Where's Malone? fucking disgrace!
And you gotta wonder, it's only a matter of time before the people realize that there are so many more people than the police. I'm sure you guys have all seen videos of tramplings and things like that where the crowd turns and people just run over other people and their feet just smash them on the faces and the hearts and the stomachs and so forth until they can't breathe and they die from the stampede. You gotta wonder at some point if that's gonna happen here. Here's that video that was mentioned earlier. It's where they say that Trump has to sacrifice the greatest generation. They did all that work to save us, and then we just give them up because there's a little bit of a disease and we don't want to wear masks.
He shakes his hand. An American dies. They pal around. Another roadside attack. Putin pays bounties to Taliban enemies to kill American soldiers. And not a word from Donald Trump. Intelligence reports on his desk. He says nothing to his Russian master. Takes no action to protect us. Who is the enemy? If you're going to act like a traitor, you don't get to thank us for our service. He shakes.
Wow, powerful advertisement there. I'm not sure I'd seen that one. They might have changed the link or something. But yeah, incredible advertisement. I wonder who Trump works for. Great advertisement there from Vote Vets. It's embarrassing that it's so simple. Hong Kong, with 7.5 million residents, is one of the most densely populated places on Earth, but only recorded 6 deaths from COVID-19, despite having no lockdowns and receiving nearly 3 million travelers a day from abroad, around half of them from mainland China, where the virus originated. The key secret of Hong Kong's success, Professor Yuan said, is that the mask compliant rate during the morning rush hour is 97%. The 3% who didn't comply are mainly Americans and Europeans, he said. The only thing that you can do is universal mask wearing. That's what stopped it. Universal mask wearing. That means we need to all work together and wear masks to kill the coronavirus. That's it. Science has spoken. I agree with this. We know the difference between a face mask and blackface. This is just fucking insulting. Put it back. Hulu has removed an episode of The Golden Girls in which characters wear mud face masks. The episode was removed because Hulu are fucking idiots. Look at this picture. She's wearing a mud face mask. It's not blackface. Let's stop being so stupid here. It's been 4 months since the White House Chief of Staff said at CPAC that the media was only covering the coronavirus because they think that this is going to be the thing that takes down the president. They were downplaying and denying the virus, and these videos will last forever. They'll be played at their trial.
The reason you're saying so much attention to it today is that they think this is going to be what brings down the president. That's what this is all about. I got a note today from a reporter saying, what are you going to do today to calm the markets? And I'm like, really, what I might do today to calm the markets is tell people to turn their televisions off for 24 hours. The reason you're paying so...
120,000 dead Americans. It was all a trick to get Trump. 120,000 dead and rising. Here's the ad that I thought we were going to play earlier. This one is from the Lincoln Project, and it's about the greatest generation.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
In 1941, America's leaders asked a generation to go to war, to build an arsenal for democracy. They did nothing less than save the world. It didn't come easy. It didn't come quickly. And it didn't come without great sacrifice.
America will again and soon be open for business. We cannot let the cure be worse than the problem itself. We're not going to let the cure be worse than the problem.
Haven't we asked enough of the greatest generation? The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Again, a powerful advertisement from the Lincoln Project. So many disturbing details in this AP investigation of China's efforts to control the population of Uyghurs and other minorities in Xinjiang. China is forcing birth control on the Uyghurs to suppress population. This is a genocide. And Trump said it was okay. He asked him in the meeting, he said, hey, I got these concentration camps where, we're sterilizing and killing this minority that we don't like. And Trump said, okay, that's fine. It was in Bolton's book. He could have told us about it sooner, but he needed to write a book. Due to the rising spread of COVID-19, California is ordering bars to close in Fresno, Imperial, Kern, Kings, Los Angeles, San Joaquin, and Tulare, while recommending that they close in Contra Costa, Riverside, Sacramento, San Bernardino, Santa Barbara, Santa Clara, Stanislaus, and Ventura. California is rolling back the ridiculous idea that we could reopen while the coronavirus is still out there. Ron Perlman, the actor, writes, 122,000 Americans dead, and Pence is just now recommending we wear a mask. Somebody must have told him he was losing in November. The man is a tool with no uses. And this is pretty amazing. This is apparently a common practice in Brazil by the guy who installs your protection net. Matt Veloso writes, how many software engineers would show the same level of confidence towards their code? Like someone says, test until boredom replaces fear. And look at this incredible video out of Brazil. He's going to test this net. Wow. Not worth it, man. Job not good. Not good job. Look at this. Bending backwards. Really testing it. And again, the problem with this test is it's pretty obvious what happens if you failed. So yes, he must have done a really good job installing that net because he tested it thoroughly. The memes are starting to roll in on the former lawyer who's likely going to be disbarred and might just lose his pretty house. Look at this fantastic movie parody poster that they already made, Ken and Karen. So, special guest Freedom Musket, coming soon to a theater near you. John Dickerson did an excellent job interviewing Pence. He was respectful and very direct with a man who is clearly letting tens of thousands of people die to serve Trump's delusions. These people should be in prison. Pence looked idiotic and dangerous. Let's watch a short clip of this interview with Pence.
One of the elements of the genius of America is the principle of federalism, of state and local control. We've made it clear that we want to defer to governors, we want to defer to local officials.
But Mr. Vice President,
and people should listen to them.
The virus doesn't know federalism. A virus that hits in Texas is in New York tomorrow. This is a problem that requires a coordinated national result, which is what these outbreaks are showing. And so to say states should deal with them individually seems to miss the big fact, which is the virus can go wherever it wants.
He's really nice to him there. It's like talking to a child, and he has to break it down for him. He's like, yeah, the virus doesn't care about imaginary state lines. The virus just goes right over them. Look at how New York got rid of the virus, and now all the other states are spreading the virus. New York basically has to close off because all these other states are out of control. It's unbelievable. GOP operatives are raising for the first time the possibility that Donald Trump could drop out of the race if his poll numbers don't rebound. Over the weekend, Charles spoke to a sample of major players. One described Trump's current psyche as fragile. Angus Johnson jokes, the idea that Trump dropping out of the race would solve the GOP problems is almost endearingly fanatical. Yes, it's crazy. He also says, a Trump who is capable of retiring graciously from the ticket, then quietly assisting the GOP where his support is needed while avoiding blowing up the national campaign, is a Trump who isn't losing re-election by 9.5 points. So yes. If a frog had wings, it wouldn't bump its ass a-hopping. To put it more succinctly, I can imagine a Trump who is happy to lose in November. I can't imagine a Trump who is happy to watch another Republican win in his place. It's really only about him. One big hint that Trump knew Russia was putting hits out on our soldiers and didn't care before is because he clearly knows now and doesn't care. It is amazing, even with the revelations, nothing has been done. No sanctions have been put on Russia. We haven't even said publicly, hey, Russia, stop putting bounties on our soldiers. Nothing has been done. Stone Kettle writes, people who handle guns like this should not be allowed to handle guns, or own guns, or be anywhere near guns. The NRA claims to be an organization of responsible gun owners, but the fact that they never publicly condemn this sort of negligence shows that they are anything but. And again, all of these pictures show them with their finger on the trigger. Much like pulling your sword out of its scabbard, you don't do it until it's time to kill. Clearly, it's time to kill. It says right here, a fellow lawyer from Missouri, a guy he knows named Mark, committed an assault tonight in St. Louis by pointing his AR-15 at peaceful protesters. He should be arrested and charged with assault immediately. The Missouri bar should revoke their licenses. Just like the couple in San Francisco who both lost their jobs after being critical of the man for writing with chalk on what later turned out to be his own house. These people's lives will be ruined because they went outside and threatened protesters. Your property is inside. If they came inside your house, that's when you can shoot them. When you go outside, you should leave your gun in your house. Nick at Nick Lyles Comedy writes, say what you will about Ken and Karen, but this is some ride or die relationship goals shit. If you can't seamlessly move from watching House Hunters to hopping off the porch with a strap, then I don't want it. It is funny how they both came outside without their shoes on. They got their guns, but they didn't have time to get their shoes. And here's that quote from earlier about the Missouri property law. Let's take a look. It should be noted that as used in Section 563-036, premises is usually understood to constitute the house or dwelling and not broadly include all of the defender's property. Section 563011(3) defines premises as any building, inhabitable structure, and any real property. Although this definition encompasses any real property, the causes interpreting the defense of premises statute usually construe premises in terms of dwelling or house. So they would have been fine if they had been defending their dwelling, but no one was attempting to enter their dwelling. In fact, the protesters were just walking by. There was no reason to threaten them. Here we can see the video. It says, "These are just kids, peaceful protesters. Look at how these complete idiots act. A perfect example of why civilians should not own AR-15 assault weapons to protect themselves from these non-threatening people. Unacceptable. Period." Look at him getting stuck in the strap there. We must tax the rich, right? Ken and Karen are showing us what happens when societies accept extreme inequality. When the rich get too rich, and they know it, they get scared. The culture war is actually a class war, and it's not good for anyone. Wait till you see the inside of these people's house. It reminds me of a British rich house that lords and ladies live in, like Chatsworth or one of those. You won't believe it. It's incredible. It's like a museum. I love this little joke here by Jen. She says, "With a house like that, Ken and Karen should be able to afford a damn Peloton." And yes, even with all the money in the world, people still can't take care of themselves. And I know, it's hard. I struggle with it too. Looking at this picture right here, the above photo, I said, what a perfect photograph. Both faces half lit by the sun, their fingers on the trigger, their fine clothes and fine house couldn't save them from the fear. And now the fear is probably never ending. Everyone knows where they live. As Patton said, fixed fortifications are a monument to the stupidity of man. Their house has no wheels. They can't go anywhere. They just expose themselves. They're going to have to move. Sean Patrick Maloney writes, representative, he says, "I was a White House staff secretary. Every document that goes to the President of the United States is literally stamped, 'The President has seen,' and a record is kept. So let the briefing docs testify." Which is, once again, why would you lie about this? Why would you lie about something that can so be easily proven false? Unless it's the only move you had left. If you looked at the box and you said, "There's nothing else I can do, I have to make an easily discoverable lie," because the alternative is so much worse. Well, now we're living in the alternative. He knows, and he didn't do anything. He knows now, and he's still not doing anything. George Conway asks, what did the president and vice president know, and when did they know it? It might be a lot safer for the country now if Trump and Pence were impeached and removed from office, and we allowed Nancy Pelosi to caretake of the government until the election. Of course, the president would be disqualified from the election. I'm pretty sure if you get impeached. Can't run. Not sure. I would like to know more. Caesars Entertainment will begin mandatory COVID-19 testing for their Las Vegas employees later this week. As I said, following their first employee death, Caesars Palace begins to take the virus seriously. If only they had done that before an employee died for working at Caesars. As I've said before, with this massive brush fire, the Mahogany Fire, as a 10-acre brush fire this afternoon here in Las Vegas, it's a great idea to launch fireworks off Mount Rushmore in just a few days. Nothing could go wrong. Nothing at all. The White House press secretary is saying President Trump tweeted out a video of Trump supporters chanting white power because those supporters are often demonized. Yamiche Alcindor says, note, shouting white power is unequivocally racist and something that would lead to someone being rightly demonized. Ebony Jade Hilton, MD, writes, I'm pissed off. A thread on Elijah McClain. It took 4 years of college, 4 years of med school, 4 years of residency, 1 year of fellowship to become a double board certified anesthesiologist. She says that she uses ketamine to put people fully to sleep, and never has she ever used 500 milligrams of ketamine to do so like they did to Elijah McClain when the paramedics and the police murdered him in Aurora, Colorado for wearing a mask, walking down the street, and of course, sadly, being black. As she says, 500 milligrams is over the dose she would use for general anesthetic. Remember, he was only 140 pounds. Hell, for sedation, you would barely use a third of that dose. Ketamine carries risks of laryngospasm, cardiovascular collapse, and aspiration if you vomit. Because of that, she has to have full consent. So did Elijah McClain consent to this sedative that killed him? And of course, as she says, his final words, "My God, how can you not be left angry after that? Did anyone think to say, is there anyone we can call for you to speak to his mother instead of violating his body and taking his life?" Every single participant should be charged. And I do mean everyone. She also volunteers, let it be known if there is ever a case like this that any lawyer needs a medical expert, I will gladly take that stand. This mess has got to stop. Praying for his mother. This was horrible. And we talked about it the other day. Elijah McClain, right here. These were his last words. He is incredibly peaceful. He played the violin for stray cats at the animal shelter so they wouldn't be lonely. He was a massage therapist. He was around 140 pounds, 5'4". He wasn't big. He wasn't strong. He was walking down the street with a black ski mask on, but he was carrying his groceries in a big plastic bag, the kind that they give you when you pay for your groceries. On the security camera at the store, you can see him paying for the groceries. Somebody called him in because they saw him walking down the street with a ski mask. And the police, they just couldn't leave him alone. They couldn't let him walk home. They couldn't try to understand him. They instead saw it as a confrontation. And they won the confrontation. 3 of them held him down, all 140 pounds of him, saying on the video cameras how strong he was, perhaps already preparing their defense. After they held him down and stressed him out, he became incredibly stressed. He's probably a little autistic or something. The answer to this stress, as they say, was to give him randomly and for no medical reason 500 milligrams of ketamine, which killed him. Elijah McClain, Aurora, Colorado. None of the police or medical personnel were charged. It's been over a year. The only reason we know about this now is 2 million people signed a petition. So when you say petitions do nothing, not if 2 million people sign it. Slushpool writes, approximately 94% of Bitcoin's hash rate currently goes through Chinese mining pools, while some 65% is physically produced in China during the rainy season. It's safe to say Bitcoin decentralization isn't perfect. But they have hopes that they can fix it, and they're working on a new version called Stratum V2, which, as you can see in the picture, hopes to take the image on the left, concentrated in pools, into this image on the right, a projection based upon Slushpool's public hash rate distribution. Interesting. Stratum V2. Speaker Nancy Pelosi demands the entire House be briefed immediately on the Russian murder of U.S. troop and on Trump's inexplicable behavior towards Russia in light of these reports. It's almost like he works for them. It's almost like he's on the payroll. Quick summary of today's Supreme Court abortion ruling. The 4 liberals voted for abortion rights. 4 of the conservatives voted against abortion rights. And Chief Justice John Roberts voted for stare decisis, the weight of short-term precedent, basically. Roberts said that they decided it 4 years ago. As Angus Johnson continues, the abortion law that SCOTUS struck down today is virtually identical to a law they struck down 4 years ago. Stare decisis is the principle that says even if you don't like a decision, you shouldn't immediately overturn it because continuity and consistency are important. Justice Roberts continues to be the only one to save the court from overturning Roe v. Wade. Roberts is like, we just did this 4 years ago. Stop. The other conservatives are like, no, this is completely different for reasons. Also, we have the votes now. Let's go for it. And remember, Kavanaugh said that he would respect stare decisis. He said that Roe v. Wade was settled law, but Kavanaugh voted against this decision. Crazy stuff from Bob Woodward, famous from Woodward and Bernstein, the Watergate Deep Throat reports from the 1970s. He was going to expose Brett Kavanaugh as his source on Bill Clinton's affair. Remember, Brett Kavanaugh worked with Ken Starr on the investigation into President Clinton and apparently leaked all of the details about that investigation to Bob Woodward for his book. Kavanaugh later lied about being the source. Bob Woodward should have outed him as a liar, but didn't. Now Kavanaugh is on the Supreme Court for life. That's right. A liar is on the Supreme Court for life. Thanks, Bob Woodward. Great job. And as promised, here are the inside pictures of Ken and Karen's mansion, the thing that they were so willing to fight to protect. And I know a lot of people were saying, yeah, you should kill all those people and it's your property and stuff, but maybe you didn't know what the inside of the house looked like. Why didn't they have, servants with machine guns? Why didn't they have a security force? Look at this dining room. I mean, Louis XIV elegance here, right? Here's a sitting room. Note the fantastic ceiling, not only the woodwork, but the painted ceiling here. That's a good clock, too. That's an old clock. I would like to turn that thing around and look at the sides of it. Another dining room. Gosh, that's nice. That's a nice tapestry, too. Probably original. Looks faded. Look at the marble stairs going over here. What a lovely house for 2 people. I'm sure that, this was totally deserved. And there they are right there. You can see the difference between LinkedIn and Twitter. Twitter, they have the machine gun out. LinkedIn, they're bragging about their riches to everyone. Look how rich they are. Oh, how amazing. How wonderful. And so sad that they're going to have to move out of this house. They're going to have to sell or move all these possessions. Maybe you could sell the house furnished. Maybe somebody else will just buy it off you. But, yep, this house is really nice, really beautiful. Looks like it should be a museum. I'm glad that we have a society where this kind of wealth can be held in private hands. This definitely improves things for everyone. It looks a bit like that palace that the Ukrainians toured after they deposed their president. They all walked through. They didn't smash it. They didn't destroy it because they knew it was their property. It was their money, the Ukrainians. But they walked through and they just marveled at how incredibly rich their president had been living and how incredibly poor their lives were. I'm sure these people definitely deserve all this stuff. And it's very sad that they'll never be able to feel safe here again. Caesars in Las Vegas, allegedly, is no longer accepting cash at the front desk or Caesars-owned restaurants. This is verified by someone at Caesars Palace. Credit or debit card only. It appears this went into effect in the last week. Now, the law on this is not entirely clear. While the U.S. dollar does say on it for all debts, public and private. This note is legal tender, implying that it has to be accepted. That's not entirely clear. That hasn't exactly been enforced. I'm pretty sure that you do have the right to just accept debit or credit. But this is a major change for a casino, and it's the kind of change that could continue outward as people realize that cash is dirty and that cash spreads disease. This could be the end of cash. Casey Neistat even weighed in on this. Internet famous Casey Neistat, great video creator, back from the iMac days. Classic, respect. Casey says, if Karen doesn't know proper trigger discipline, Karen shouldn't have a gun. And she really shouldn't. If you watch these videos, not only here, it looks like he's pointing the machine gun at her in this lower right one. There's several shots where she's pointing it at her husband with her finger still on the trigger. Also, all these protesters that she's pointing it at with her finger on the trigger. You only put your finger on the trigger when it's time to kill, right? You do not do that before then. But these people obviously don't have any kind of training at all for their weapons. Another scene from Seattle, a bit hard to understand what's going on here. They say a Jeep comes westbound from 11th Street and Pike, turns onto northbound, then crashes into a barricade halfway between Pike and Pine. Lots of shots fired. People in the Jeep hit with return fire. This is from the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone in Seattle. Let's take a look. Maybe you guys can see it better than I can, but I'm pretty sure the car is going to come in here from the left. You can kind of see it in this lower right video, the close-up. They zoom over into it. The main thing is just the amount of machine gun or whatever kind of fire this is. There's just a lot of bullets are about to be shot here in Seattle for some reason. Sounds like the protesters were tipped off to it. They heard it, saying eyes up. You hear squealing sounds in the distance. You see the car here pushing at the barricades. You hear the gunshots. So crazy stuff happening in Seattle at the Autonomous Zone. Looks like they were attacked by a Jeep and people with guns. Scary stuff. Shout out to Seveniandra on Twitter. She writes, those who have stayed inside, wore masks in public, and socially distanced during this entire pandemic are the same people who are used to doing the whole group project by themselves. But this time you're rewarded. You get to live longer. Good deal. Scary stuff out of Hong Kong as the situation continues to get worse. Leave Hong Kong. Get out of Hong Kong. A delegate calls on Beijing to make Hong Kong security law retroactive. Fears of life sentences for offenders. And yes, a retroactive law means that they can enforce it after the fact. So if they decide the penalty for crossing the street is death, and you crossed the street yesterday, you now are ready for death. Terrifying stuff coming out of Hong Kong. Of course, in the United States, retroactive laws called ex post facto laws are illegal. They've gone through a couple of times and they've been overturned by the Supreme Court. It violates the double jeopardy law. Can't be tried for the same thing twice. And ex post facto is just cruel. Kagan and Sotomayor, writing in dissent, are both bracingly explicit in describing the rot at the core of our government. They're angry and afraid and willing to say so, more clearly and compellingly in Angus Johnson's experience than the Democratic political leadership. Let's take a look at Elena Kagan's defense, her dissent from the Supreme Court. The analysis is as simple can be. The CFPB director exercises the same powers and receives the same removal protections as the heads of other constitutionally permissible independent agencies. How could it be that this opinion was a dissent? It does seem like they're siding against precedent and siding against previous decisions. Lisa Stark warns you, it was 5-4. You know what happens if Trump gets reelected, right? I don't care if Biden was your 8th effing choice. Don't give me a lame excuse why you're staying home November 3rd. There's way too much at stake. And we did it. We made it through the news. We survived. Huzzah! Huzzah! Well met. So thanks to anybody who survived through the news today. Definitely check out that movie, Inherent Vice. I liked it so much, I might want to watch it again pretty soon. It's really good. It's kind of Lebowski-esque, kind of Long Goodbye-esque, Big Sleep, that kind of thing. Joaquin Phoenix, directed by P.T. Anderson. Maybe the greatest living American director. Definitely top 5, maybe top 3. So it's a great film. Check that out. I also want to keep recommending Get Me Roger Stone. You guys should check it out. This guy was behind all the dirty tricks, all the nasty things you've ever seen. He's a real American monster, and he also worked for Trump. Get Me Roger Stone, a documentary you can see anywhere. Also enjoyed another documentary yesterday called Knock Down the House. It's on Netflix. It tells the story of a group of 3 or 4 women who decided to run for Congress in 2016, I want to say. And one of the major participants is AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It's an amazing documentary on Netflix. Knock Down the House tells her story, and it's very moving, wonderful American story of a normal person running for Congress. Spoiler alert, she wins. It's impressive. So thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and a share. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. Hit the bell for notifications. And check out worldcryptonetwork.store. The images are also likely below this video. You can get your own World Crypto Network t-shirt, World Crypto Network mug, Treasures Don't Float t-shirt, and Bitcoin Not Bombs, the Bitcoin Halving 2020 edition by Davi Barker. Check them all out at worldcryptonetwork.store. Also, check out the World Crypto Network audio podcast, available wherever audio podcasts are heard. It's up to date just right now with Saturday and Sunday's show, but of course I just did another show on Monday, so now it's not up to date anymore. Checking in with the price of Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin seems pretty flat. It's down just 0.19% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 9,151, a high of 9,172, and a low of 9,018. That's $1 for 10,928 Satoshis. The market volume was at 3,361 Bitcoins changing hands. The market continues to lean long, with 81% heading that direction. Bitcoin dominance was at 65.49%. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.